Okay, now we're on part 3, and we're going to move away from our common parallelograms and triangles, and we're going to move to some other shapes you may not be as familiar with. So kites, and this actually works for kites and rhombus. And let's see where the formula comes from. Basically, if you look at this, this is 2 triangles, where this is one of the diagonals and this is the other diagonal. And the 2 triangles are equal to each other. So if I just consider one triangle here, let's do the top one. The area of a triangle is 1/2 the base, which is Q, times the height, which is 1/2 of P. But this triangle is the same exact size as this triangle, so if I multiply this times 2, because there's 2 triangles there that are the same size. Well, if I do it on my calculator, 2 times 1/2 times 1/2, I get 1/2. So what I'm left with is this is just 1/2 P times Q, where P and Q are just the 2 diagonals, this diagonal and this diagonal. This is actually a super easy formula to use because it works for kites and rhombuses, and it's just 1/2 this diagonal times this diagonal. You just have to be careful on problems whether they give me the whole length or they just give me part of it. So this whole formula is area equals 1/2 diagonal times the diagonal. And you'll see it on your formula chart under rhombus, but you may want to make a note here, this is also good for kites as well. 1/2 D1 times D2, where the D's are the diagonals. Alright, so I also want to talk about the trapezoids. And I really like the trapezoid formulas, because it's kind of cool how it works out. If I take this trapezoid and I cut it into 2 pieces like this, I get 2 triangles. I'm going to get the green one and the pink one. So let's do the pink one. So if I put these together, I'll get the whole thing. Well, the pink one is 1/2 the base times the height of the pink one. Well, the height is here, but this height here is still the same as this height here. So it's 1/2 B times H plus the green one, which the base of the green one, like it's upside down. So I'm going to look at it like this for a second. Here's the base of the green one, but this height is still the height of the green one. So it's going to be 1/2 A is the base times H. H. Now what I need to do is do a little bit of algebra to this, and I'm going to pull out the things that are the same. Look, these both have a 1/2 in them, so I'm going to put a 1/2 out front. And they both have an H in them, so I'm going to put an H out front. And inside I get B plus A. Let's just distribute this to see if this works out. 1/2 H times B, yep, that's that part. 1/2 H times A, yep, that's that part. And then look what A and B are. That's just my 2 bases. That's where our formula on our formula sheet comes from. 1/2, add the 2 bases together times the height. So 1/2 H base 1 plus base 2. You can also do this formula as height base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2. A lot of students like that one better. And then area of a circle, this is the radius, and this is the diameter. And remember, the diameter is 2 times the radius. So if I have the diameter, I just need to divide by 2 to get the radius. So I could also say the radius is the diameter divided by 2. These you'll just have to remember because sometimes they give you one and sometimes they give you the other. The formula for area of a circle is pi r squared. Alright, so let's use these formulas on these problems really quickly. Here, the important thing to notice, that's a rhombus, and they only gave me this part. So here I have to say, well, that part's 17, and on a rhombus, this length is the same as this length. So this whole diagonal is 34, 17 plus 17. This whole diagonal is 11 plus 11 is 22. So sometimes you have to add the pieces up to get the two diagonals. Once you do that, this is super easy. 1/2 times diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. Feet squared. Here it's a kite, and they gave me different pieces, so I need to again figure out the whole thing. This part, they said each one of these is 8, so this whole thing is 16. And they gave me both parts of this one, 9 and 11, so this whole part is 20. So it's going to be 1/2 16 times 20. Centimeters squared. Alright, here's our trapezoid. Here's my two bases and my height, so I have 1/2 times my two bases added together times the height. And notice I'm just putting it in parentheses just like I wrote on my paper, and that'll keep you from messing it up. If you don't do this, you're probably going to type it in wrong and get it messed up. Okay, then I gave you two circles, one where I give you the diagonal and one where I give you the radius. If you're given the diagonal, remember, you have to do the diagonal divided by 2 to get the radius. So the radius is equal to 25 divided by 2 is 12.5. And it's important to note that this is just 12.5 squared, not the whole thing squared. Don't do this. That's going to square the whole thing. We only want the 12.5 squared, so this is wrong. You want to do 3.14 times 12.5 squared. Do it in one step like that and hit enter, and you won't mess it up. You do it the other way, it's going to give you the wrong answer. Now, there's also this pi key on your calculator. For everything I've done on the worksheets, I've put it in as 3.14. If we put this pi in, it gives us a more accurate pi. This is actually rounded off. And if I use this number in my calculation, you can see that it's just slightly off, 0.22 off. That's not very far off. Out of almost 500, it's 0.22 off. So I'm just going to use 3.14. If you want to use this, just realize that your answers might be slightly off of a multiple choice answer on a test by about that much. I won't count it wrong, but if you're looking at multiple choice, you might notice it's slightly off. And our last one here, pi 3.96. And this is yards squared, and this is inches squared.